Today, the show is all about Parliament. A number of things have been happening in Parliament. Parliament, it's supposed to be vetting the presidential or the president's nominees for various ministries and positions. But this vetting has degenerated into many things. Now, Speaker, on Thursday, following Thursday's event, yesterday, Friday, suspended the two whips, Majority Chief Whip and the Minority Chief Whip, because they appear to have been involved in the chaotic things that happened in Parliament that caused the destruction of public property, tables, microphones, etc., were destroyed in that chaos. The Speaker felt that the conduct was unacceptable and it did not have to happen. He's announced a raft of measures. One is suspension of 4 people, including the 2 whips. He's also asked for full-scale criminal investigations into the matter. He set up a 7-member committee to look into the matter and make recommendations to him. He's also called for a reconstitution of the appointments committee and the rules governing the committee. So these are a number of things that the Speaker has done upon the matter coming to his knowledge. Many have applauded him for being swift on the matter. Also, before this chaotic incident was another one that happened earlier in the week during the vetting for the president nominee for the defense portfolio, Dr. Edward Kofi Omane-Boamah. During that vetting, or even sometime along that vetting, or even before that vetting, there was some altercation between a public servant, the lawyer, Victoria Emefa Hardcastle, and Arnaud Dompre. That altercation resulted in the use of some words many have said are unparliamentary, and because of that, the minority chief whip on the floor of Parliament called on Speaker to look into the matter because, in his view, that constituted contempt of Parliament. Many of us, if MPs, given the conduct we have seen in the last week, should be demanding respect or respect is earned. The MP says that if there will be crucifixion at all, it should not happen in his own backyard, referencing the fact that he was insulted in his own house, as in the House of Parliament. Interesting things there. What do you make generally of the vetting? Omane-Boamah, Sam George, Akando, Sam Cudjoe, Ablakwa, and all of that. Were you impressed by the answers the nominees gave? Were you impressed by the line of questioning by the committee? What are your thoughts generally? We'll be happy to hear them on our WhatsApp 0204447033 or 0549986996. Let me just provide you a quick update, then we go straight and then deal with the matters. Now, the members of Parliament involved in the violent clashes during the appointments committee sitting on Thursday, January 30, have been suspended for 2 weeks. The decision announced by Speaker Alban Gbagbe on Friday intimated it is an indication of Parliament's strong stance against misconduct and breaches of decorum among members. The incidents in question occurred on the evening of Thursday, January 30, and the morning of Friday, January 31. ChannelOne News' Nia Ikuyokan has more in the following report.
A disagreement ensued during the vetting of ministerial nominees at the Appointments Committee on Thursday evening, where the minority raised concerns about the day's proceedings, arguing that it had had a long day, hence the need for the rescheduling of the vetting of Samuel Cudjoe Ablakwa, the Minister-designate for Foreign Affairs, and Kwabena Mintah Akando, the Minister-designate for Health. However, the majority insisted on going on with the vetting of these 2 nominees. This degenerated into chaos, with some members of Parliament as well as members of the committee breaking tables and microphones at the Appointments Committee sitting. Now, during proceedings in Parliament on Friday, the Speaker, Alban Gbagbe, described the incident as a blatant contempt of the House, thereby suspending both the majority and minority chief whips of the House, Frank Anadompre and Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekbo, as well as the Gushegu MP, Alhassan Tampuli, and Wejagbawe MP, Jerry Ahmed Shaib.
Leaders from the various caucuses should take the consequential actions to continue with their leadership. But the Marshal is hereby directed to ensure the full enforcement of this suspension in accordance with the rules of the House.
The Speaker also announced the immediate recomposition of the Appointments Committee.
I further direct the Clerk to Parliament to formally lodge a complaint with the Ghana Police Service to conduct a full criminal investigation into the matter for appropriate action. 4, I call for an immediate meeting of the Committee of Selection today, to reconstitute the Appointments Committee as a matter of urgency.
Alban Bagben also established a 7-member committee chaired by Ho West MP Emmanuel Bedra to report on the matter within 10 days after its investigation.
A 7-member special committee shall be constituted under Orders 5 and 20, Rule 4, to conduct a full-scale investigation into the events of yesterday and this morning. The committee shall identify all members involved in the disorder and submit its report with findings and recommendations within 10 days from today. The committee is to be chaired by Honorable Emmanuel Bedra. Other members, Honorable Kwame Anyimedu Antwi, Honorable Gisela Akushika Tete Agbotui, Mrs. Honorable Abina Osei Asare, Mrs. Honorable Zaneto Ajiman Rollins, Doctor. Honorable Vincent Opong Asamoah and Honorable Bede Anwatazuma Zeden. I direct the Clerk to Parliament to cause to be undertaken a full assessment of all damage caused within the committee room and parliamentary presence as a result of the misconduct of the members. Not a single peso of public funds shall be used to repair or replace any damaged property. Instead, members found responsible shall be surcharged for the full cost of repairs and replacement with deductions.
So that was the Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honourable Alban Sumana Kingsford Lubabin, cracking the whip there. Let's introduce our guests for this morning. We have Dr. Cudjoe Asante, Senior Research Director of Policy and the Policy at the CDD, Samuel Obing, Executive Director, Parliamentary Network Africa, Franklin Cudjoe, President Imani Africa, Kwame Jolly Gakpe, Honourable MP for Keta, and Vincent Eko Asifua, Member of Parliament for Old Tafu on the ticket of the MPP. Gentlemen, you are welcome. Let me zoom straight to Dr. Cudjoe Asante. Doc, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, very good morning to you and to other panelists. To your viewers and listeners.
Great, a pleasure having you as always. Now, what are your impressions about the happenings in Parliament this week, particularly the chaotic scenes we saw on Thursday night?
Well, thank you very much. I think it's quite regrettable to have witnessed those things. But I think generally the vetting process has been just fraught with too many challenges. Just the conduct, the approach, the temperament of MPs really has not been good. And I don't know whether because in a way people have still not how do you say, retired from elections. It seems the residue of elections are still very much in the mindset and the orientation of a number of MPs. So the heat, the kind of intensity and sometimes very toxic, feelings and so on. It's also been replicated during this vetting. And then I just also feel that there's too many times when it looks like people want to relitigate the campaign, scores that they need to settle and so on and so forth. And it's really taken away from what, in the views of most Ghanaians, we have very pressing issues. We have a challenging economy, governance issues. People are tired, frustrated, by the system of politics. They want to see delivery. And so they want to hear nominees talk about how they are going to fix these problems. And it looks like we are just being overshadowed too many times by these either people trying to settle scores or these exchanges that really does not serve the interest of the public. So for me, the actions there were, I just didn't understand how it could have degenerated into what we saw. And when I saw some of the videos, I thought at the beginning that it could have been handled very well. I mean, if the minority, felt that they'd been there for too long, and I completely agree with them. This is a matter that not just me, but many commentators have kept saying. It is just so inefficient to keep people there for hours and hours and hours. It doesn't make people sharp on their feet. It doesn't help in really bringing the best. It gets people frustrated and all of that. So if that was the case, I thought that what the majority leader should have done was basically to call the chairman to the side. I know he said that he was surprised, or they were surprised by this insistence of adding another nominee for vetting. But they could have called him aside and said, no, my people are tired. Let's try and reschedule this and all of that. And trying, but the agitation and the banging of tables and all of that just then escalated everything and led to this very, very bad behavior. So something has to be done, and there's a lot of reflection and review of the standing orders, particularly around this process of vetting. That there's a lot that has to change to deal with that. And then I must say that also, Parliament, in dealing with these problems, they tend to forget that in all these appointment processes, and because it's a cultural thing for us, you have nominees coming there with their parents, their chiefs, their community members, and it doesn't look like in all of these problems we're trying to solve, we don't factor them into the process. Some people could be sitting there, they haven't even eating anything. and just, and these disruptions happen. People have traveled from long distances. The logistics of rearranging everything is so huge for some people. So the really Parliament needs to get its act together and try and deal with this. If we overcome this process, really we shouldn't repeat what we are seeing on our screen at all.
I see. Many have questioned or have blamed the posture or the conduct of leadership for this. I mean, leadership on both sides. That it does appear that the both sides have hardlining positions, and nobody wants to compromise. And that if you compromise, maybe your base would think that you are weak. So the minority, even though are very few, have made a case that they call themselves now the mighty minority versus what the NDC calls them as a micro minority. And it does appear that they don't want to take anything lying down. The fact that they are few should not make them pushovers. And the majority guys are saying, no, we must have our way whilst you have your say. We have the numbers, and so it must be our way. The leaders don't appear to be wanting to meet in the middle. Is that not a possible cause to this as well?
Yes, as I said, people have not retired from the elections, and they want to really to get the elections. But they are living in a political bubble because, I think, on both sides, they should remember that 4 years is just, it's not a long time, right? And both sides are coming in to this picture with a certain narrative. All right. For the NDC, you want to reset government. You want to show Ghanaians that a lot of the bad governance of the NPP, a lot of the behaviors of the NPP, you are not going to repeat that. Ghanaians have rewarded, that campaign, that promise, that commitment with a large, majority in Parliament. So how do you fulfill that? How do you affirm, that commitment? It cannot be that you are going to, dominate, or you are going to intimidate or overpower or any of those kinds of things, because you are expected to, be the bigger person in that sense, right? So how do you manage that? And if you say that you are playing to your foot soldiers, it's not only your foot soldiers who voted for you, and it's not only your foot soldiers that are going to make the difference in any future election. So that I don't see how politically it benefits either side, And the same for the MPP. The issues of arrogance, issues of impunity, that I don't see how you overcome all of that. Particularly coming from an election where Ghanaians have been very emphatic that they were not happy with some of your behavior in the past, that you are going to be seen as being disruptive, of the processes of government. That it was an issue that even in the last days of the election, when the NDC, took some of those positions, people were very upset that, yes, you may have a cause, but at the end, when you disrupt government, it's the ordinary people that suffer for it, because there are issues to be addressed. Things have to be managed quickly so we can move on. So I think everybody is, as I said, they are living in a political bubble, playing to the core supporters, because they would either be hailed or damned by them. But as I said, for the millions of Ghanaians, they are not communicating anything good. And I have to call out Honorable Govind Sabuja and Honorable Anodompre. So because I just think that the posturing, sometimes even the shouting, I'm like, why should it, as whips, they are really required to have the finesse, to lead the troops in a way that is constructed, and this push, that is almost kind of militant, confrontational push out of both sides, I don't think is healthy. And it's just the beginning. It is just one committee, right? So yes, they might make their own political calculations and think that this is what the people are deserving. But I can tell you, from where I sit, it's not going down well at all. And if they are really serious about their political fortunes, they need to rethink those strategies.
Is it not a case that we are seeing this degeneration because on the night of January 6 and the early morning of January 7, 2021, when Speaker Babin was elected, we saw similar chaotic scenes even in the House itself, and that has gone unpunished. To date, the invasion of the House by the military and all of that we saw, nobody has investigated that. And so perhaps that has become the new order of the day. Can't we point this to, or can't we say that that could have been the genesis of these chaotic happenings in Parliament in recent times?
No, I think the 2021 one was terrible. And of course, that had its own context. I mean, the whole idea of a minority speaker being elected, some MPs defecting, sort of people taken by surprise and reacted very badly to all of that. But at least that passed for a couple of years. But I really think it's the whole atmosphere of the 8th Parliament, the hung Parliament. When Ghanaians, we did our surveys, Ghanaians had expectations. They wanted, a closed Parliament like that for there to be more cooperation, more coalition building, more accountability, and Ghanaians had mixed results from that Parliament. But what was also a feature of that Parliament was a lot of acrimony. And as I said, even in the last days of the elections, the fact that the budget couldn't be passed, people, this complete halt of Parliament. And once you set those kinds of precedent, it really has bad blood. It lets people feel, that they can't trust each other and work together. And the election itself was very acrimonious and in some cases even toxic. And it has carried into, the Parliament. And this belief that, okay, no, we are not going to just sit down and take it. We would, fight you every inch of the way and all of that. And that's all playing out in the full glare of the public, who are looking to their leaders to focus on the business of solving their problems. And it doesn't look like that's what they're doing. So for me, I think it's, as I said, the leadership of Parliament needs to sit down and think, and the political parties have to also think carefully about this strategy that they are, that they shouldn't forget that it's not just about them. And that whatever they are doing, Ghanaians are watching very, very carefully. And Ghanaians have shown that they are discerning enough to make a decision as to, who really serves their interests and who doesn't. So they have to be careful. I mean, the Speaker's actions, whilst I commend them to be swift and needed, because as you said, in the past, there has not been any accountability. And one of the things that we have observed when you begin to look at, the decline in democratic quality and governance quality, across the sub-region, is the people's sense that there's too much impunity. That big people don't get punished when they commit or violate the law. And that has been a big contribution to the way people are prepared to react to a system. So if publicly people can see people destroying public property, doing this, and they are not held accountable, then they believe that this system is really a fraudulent one and has to be overthrown. So, I mean, I commend that there was swift action, but also when I look at the orders of parliament, the standing orders of parliament, I'm not sure whether the right procedure was followed. Because when you look at the issues of privileges, immunities, and so on and so forth, this is a matter that normally will be referred to the Privileges Committee. The only challenge is that maybe some of the leaders of the Privileges Committee who have been suspended are probably going to be the one that is going to sit on their own case. But that is something that has to be reconciled. You know, but when I look at it in terms of what is provided in, I think, Article 30 through, I think, 33 and so on. Sorry, the standing order 33 or so on. It doesn't look like the processes have been followed. And if that is not the case, then it becomes also you don't want to set bad precedents. But I can see the challenge there, that if you follow those processes, there might be a conflict of interest issues, and how do you recuse people and all of those kinds of things in this particular case. So, but at least Sami is online. I know he's looked at those articles. He can, expatiate a bit more on that, and there are MPs also online who can share more light on that.
That's an interesting one. I think
accountability, there has to be accountability, and MPs have to accept that this is not parliamentary behavior. And if your colleague, engages in that, you cannot sweep it under the carpet. Otherwise, you are setting the wrong example for the rest of Ghanaians, for a house of laws. If that house is in the business of violating the laws, then what kind of moral authority does it have to insist that the right things be done?
Interesting. But of course, the Privileges Committee, or the Committee of Privileges, as they call it, has not been constituted yet. I don't know why it's taking them quite some time to constitute the committees. I don't know whether we need to check whether historically it's taking them this long to do this, because the members of parliament are known, their leaders are there, they have to do the Reconstitution. I don't know why, but maybe the MPs are here, so we'll find out from them why it's taking too long. But so maybe that is why the speaker had to step in to do this. But in terms of the procedure, I mean, some of the matters were of criminal nature, destruction of public property, etc. So I'm not sure how the Privileges Committee was going to deal with that. The speaker simply asked the clerk to inform or bring in the appropriate agency of state, the CID or the police, to carry out a full-blown investigation and deal with the matter as the law requires. I'm not sure whether that should also have gone to another committee of parliament. That's one. Number two, the committee of parliament, as we've seen in the past, it's become very partisan, and the national interest more often is thrown out. We saw in the case of the Adjoa Safo's, what's the name? I won't call it vacation, but absence from parliament for a while. When that matter went to the appointment, the Privileges Committee, of course, the dynamics of the numbers in the House, work to affect the outcome as well. So till date, we had no concrete outcome from that particular committee. So would we not be risking the usual NDC MPP politics? Yeah, can you hear me?
I think I missed maybe for a few seconds.
Okay. So I was trying to say that the partisan nature of our politics. Can you hear me now?
I'm just suffocated.
Is it okay? So I was just saying that the partisan nature of these committees perhaps would not deliver the outcome that maybe the speaker would have wanted. And that given that some of the aspects were criminal, do you think it still had to await the Privileges Committee before a decision is made? The speaker just said refer the matter to the appropriate courts, perhaps the CID, let them do their job and let them do what they have to do. Okay. I think we lost.
Hello?
Yes. Okay. I think he's back. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Is it better?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So I was. Did you hear the question?
Yeah, you said you're talking about the partisan nature of of the committee.
The committees, yes. And whether
yes.
the decision, I mean, we're not going to be engaged in another, drama at that committee, That is a worry.
Yes.
And number two, the fact that it was of criminal nature, I'm not sure what the committee could do about that. So the clerk simply engage the CID, let them do their work.
Yeah, so I think on that matter, I think the standing orders provide for that. That irrespective of the rules, if there are criminal matters, it does.
I think yes.
I think in this particular case, for me, maybe I think within the confines of the standing orders, the matter could still have been handled internally, as long as Parliament is transparent and accountable about it. Because it's really, for me, in terms of sanction, apart from the suspension I think is in order. But in terms of the distraction of public property, it's really a fine that will be, suitable in this case. That will still be, for me, adequate. I don't think it requires any sort of prosecution or anything like that. But I think on the matter of the committees, so, sometimes playing to the public gallery is also one of the problems. We want to have more transparency in terms of committee sitting. But that also brings out some of the worst instincts of politicians, because then everybody is trying to communicate different messages, trying to play tough, trying to show that they love their party more than everybody else. All of those things that politicians would normally do to sort of, either energize the base or all of these things. And I think sometimes that is a disincentive and probably inimical to our own public interest. So in a lot of committees, when there are no cameras, there's a good sort of collegial environment. People will disagree and disagree forcefully. It doesn't have to be rancorous. It's based on principle and their positions from their parties and so on. But it is never played out in this kind of exchanges. And sometimes there have been very strong disagreements in committees, sitting. But I think that as soon as you bring the cameras, then it becomes a problem. So how do we manage that? We as citizens want more transparency. We want our MPs to articulate their positions, to make their arguments. We want to hear what they care about, what they are prepared to support or not support. So we want that transparency. But how do the MPs respond when they are given the opportunity to engage, in this public space? That they don't abuse it, that they don't, use it, for negative things. So I think there has to be some compromise around how we can all get the best out of Parliament when we sort of introduce, processes that make Parliament more transparent and accountable. And I think, as I said, all depends on the leadership. The leadership has a lot that they can do. The whips, the majority leader, the minority leader, the Speaker of Parliament, and all the leaders and the parties to really signal that this is a very serious place for business. Has to serve bias. Otherwise, we are just wasting money every single day on people going to Parliament every day, and the business of government that is supposed to help all of us doesn't get done. So for me, I think we are in a very challenging space and time. If these governance structures that we have set up don't deliver, because we have been going back and forth, almost circling around the same place, standing still, we are not moving. If we don't begin to show some evidence that we will be able to move forward, be progressive, and change the behaviors of the party, I think we will even get less people trusting state institutions. There will be even more frustration, and nobody knows where we are going to go. So the political class really need to step up and really show some leadership. And I hope that, they do so for their own sake and for the sake of all of us, So, I'm hoping that they will take the call to action, reflect a bit. It's very early days yet. The 9th Parliament can be a good parliament, but they need to look at their tactics and the way in which they want to approach the business of governance, which at the end is the bottom line of putting food on our tables, providing housing, so, we can pay our our children's school fees, we can find something to eat, we can find work to do. That's what it's all about, and we cannot spend time just doing these kinds of things that really are not productive. But I have to, maybe my comments on some of the main vetting. I think I didn't catch most of it, but there are questions around integrity issues that sometimes I felt that the chairman didn't provide the space for members to probe further. And I will make one particular example. I mean, the issue about asset declaration. Right. And for the NDC in particular, that has made a commitment to reforming the asset declaration regime, even if the current status quo is one doesn't engender transparency. I don't think there's to be any reason why members should be stopped from providing more information about their own assets. Because what are we all talking about when it comes to anti-corruption? It's about people coming to office and enriching themselves. So if you really want to make a commitment to that, because this is where the rubber hits the road, it's that you go above what the status quo, which we are complaining about, provides, to showcase that you are prepared to lead by example. So some of those things I thought were a missed opportunity, and I just hope that going forward, those things are important. Integrity is so important to those who lead us, and we all have to work very hard to make sure that we showcase that commitment to that fundamental principle, because those are the only ways in which we are going to make sure that every penny, every cedi that we have goes to service Ghana's interest and nowhere else.
Very well. Thanks so much. There's a lot more we could talk about, but thanks so much, Cudjoe Asante of the CDD, Policy Engagement and Advocacy Director, CDD. Thank you so much for speaking to us this morning. All right, so that's Cudjoe Asante of the CDD speaking to us before our discussion proper. So again, my guest this morning, the Honorable Kwame Cudjoe, Member of Parliament on the ticket of the NDC from Keta, Vincent Eko Asefua, Member of Parliament for Otafo, Samuel Obing, Executive Director of the Parliamentary Network Africa, and then, of course, Franklin Cudjoe, President in Mani Africa, who joins us on Zoom. Once again, good morning and welcome to the program, guest.
Good morning.
All right. So, I mean, this week has been interesting, and all the major issues that have happened this week have been parliamentary, of parliamentary nature. Let me start off with you, the Honorable Gakpe, since you are the NDC, or the governing party person here. Is your party pleased with how things have panned out in Parliament this week?
Oh, thank you very much, and good morning to your listeners. I mean, nobody will be happy of such situation. And in every human endeavor, such situations need to be condemned. It's not, I mean, it tarnishes the image of Parliament, and it doesn't put Parliament in the eyes of the Ghanaians. I mean, it's very bad. So anything that is not good. We need to condemn it.
What do you think is the cause of this conduct in Parliament, or misconduct?
The issue is boiled down to numbers again. You know, we have a minority and a majority. And then they feel intimidated. So it's one of the key strategies to make sure they disrupt parliamentary activity. That's a strategy, because the only way they can get their way is to disrupt activity. For instance, look at the appointment committee. We have 11 members, and we have 7, they have 4. And then we have the sector key areas where 2 people represent. So in total, it's 15. Quorum, when you look at our standing order, a quorum is the 1/3. And the 1/3 of that quorum of the appointment committee is 5. So any 5 person who is there as a committee member, quorum is formed and business can be transacted. Are you getting the point? So you remember they scheduled some key ministers to be elected on Wednesday, but because of the issue of parliamentary contempt, the appointment committee invited Mike Vomao.
Oliver Vomao, yeah.
Yes. So instead of they invited him, his appearance, took about, let's say, 2 hours. So after that, vetting supposed to commence. But because of that issue, the whole day, they rescheduled ministers that supposed to be designated, supposed to be vetted to the following day. And these are people, you know, when it comes to vetting, people bring their chiefs from the communities, people follow them, their sympathizers follow them. And then some are far as that day they suppose, some people sometimes look at where Honorable Nikbe or Akando is coming from. Western up, you have to transport your chief from there, be in the hotel, feeding them. So that day, no work is done. And it's a cost to what? People who have been designated. So the following day, they're supposed to vet 4 people. So they are rolling the following day's ministers added to Thursday one. So making 8 ministers they're supposed to be vetted. But in the committee, there was disagreement. MVP feels that they only do 4, and then the rest of the people, they will leave them. And then that doesn't order well for our chief. Look at our chief, that comes from far. And then the people. So the committee chair feels, the majority feels that they should do all. Even if it is burning the midnight candle, they should go on, proceed. And that, as at the time they feel like closing. And then the MPP feel that.
But does that give, if people call people to come and cheer them up, you know, that should be their cup of tea. Because that should not stop Parliament from doing its work. Their job is to scrutinize, is to, do all of that.
Yes.
So the fact that, your people are there should not stop Parliament from doing it. So you chose to bring them, right?
Yes.
And so if, for some reason, they both agreed that on that day we are not vetting, and so let's do it the following day.
Yes.
And it so happens that on the following day they can only take so much. I mean, that should not be a problem the committee should worry about.
It's not, you see, it's not like the following day can do so much. So when you are doing vetting, you must know, you have every information available to you. You must know the areas that you want to focus on. These are people we have worked with. You have been in Parliament with them. They are not new people. They are not strangers. Are you getting into Parliament? These are your colleagues, you have been working with them. So you know their character, you know everything. So there are area-specific areas you should be focusing on. If you want to test the person's tolerance, you know what to do. You know already is with you in the chamber. If you want to test the person's maybe integrity, you know the areas you should go. Some of the questions, when you look at it, it's such that the questions you go to private issues, and then you expose the person to security issues. For instance, if you're asking me, where do I stay in Accra, I mention it, and your address is provided on the CV, you are exposing this to the public. And then these are politically exposed people. Hey, are you endangering them? Because people can use that address to victimize you. My brother, do you know that I have been attacked by armed robbers 5 times? I was nearly killed. So politically exposed people, that one is a committee things you are doing, so you know everything is with you. By exposing them to the public, where they stay, the land, do they acquire the land and all that, you can do that as a part of background check. Because before you even come to vetting committee, the NIB, which is
The National Investigation Bureau.
They do a lot of those here on UB.
Yeah, but the point about, so where you stay, I get the security and all
Yes.
of that. But
So-
if I say I stay at Dansuma is so big.
Fine.
So if you ask me the Dansuma land, how did you acquire it?
Yes.
And there's a context to that because
Yes.
there's been so much said about,
Yes.
public land
Yes.
being looted, quote
Yes.
unquote,
Yeah,
and
but-
all of that.
but
So
the-
if the persons who were on that crusade about public lands being looted appear before me, and I should be able to find out whether. So that's
No problem.
That's not prying into that
Yeah,
privacy too
fine.
much.
But if it is how you captured it, it's fine. But you are the address is being mentioned, the location, where specifically you are living. You are endangering the person. Are you getting the point? In addition to that, if I go to school, I use my personal money to go to school. Personal money. What is the sense of coming to
the personal money? What we know you.
Yes.
Okay. So how are you able to afford it? It's a question that the
so
public
you
needs to
think
know.
a member of parliament who is on salary and all the other incentive cannot pay school fees?
It depends on the kind of school fees. I'm saying that what I'm saying is it is not a question far-fetched because it's not a question that is far-fetched because all the people there are MPs and they all know how much they are paid.
Yes.
And they are all entitled to the similar,
Yes.
perks.
Yes.
And so if I'm paying fees, maybe $50,000 or $100,000, and you calculate what I'm supposed to be getting, and it's nowhere near that, it's not a fair question to ask.
It is fair.
So
It
that's
is
what
fair
they are
question, but
doing,
some
isn't
of
it?
the questions are. But what I want to say is that so that day they're supposed to do the vetting, they are on, but the minority feels they have targeted certain people to grill in court.
But it's always the case because there are people who are so active in getting the party to power.
Yes.
There are people who said quite a few things, and so it happens.
Yeah, but that platform is not a platform to use to score.
No, what's the name? Cudjoe spoke about integrity, right? So if on the political platform I said ABC or I said Honorable Gakpe is ABC, and it's purely to malign you, there's no truth in that, and then you appear before me, shouldn't I be able to find out from you why you said so, or the basis upon which you said so?
But you can't set agenda that everything they say on the political platform, when you come to that platform, they should come and retract and apologize when there is a truth in it. Because everything that is, so when they talk about Galamsey.
So it's for the people to now provide proof, which we saw some of them do.
Yes, the proof is there.
Yeah, so I'm saying that. So the questions, I'm not sure, were too much out of place because they were relevant and the people provided the needed answers. And it was even good for the nominees themselves because they took the opportunity to clear.
Yes, so
themselves.
some of the, even if I were them, I keep on saying if I were minority, some of the questions strategically I won't ask because it exposes them more. Look at, for instance, it exposes them more. So they're supposed to vet the people. So when they finish vetting the last person and they wanted to vet Akando, Honorable Akando and Honorable Blackwell, because Honorable Blackwell was a target. So at the end of the day, they refused. So previously, when you said you are not going to participate in the vetting process, you can actually work out.
Honorable, of course, Franklin is there and Sam is there as well. But just quick one, don't they have to agree on the list before they do? They must agree.
They have agreed
so
on the list.
You agree.
They have been published.
Yes,
but
they said they were not aware.
They are. Because every day,
just to point it out,
it's a timetable.
Okujoe Blackwell presented or read his letter.
Yes, you see, you have a schedule for all people, all ministers designated to be vetted, and then you have a timetable from Monday to Friday. Are you getting about? So if you are not able to execute Tuesday's one, you must know that you are going to roll that because it's not the minister's designated fault. It's a fault from
the
what?
Committee.
The committee. So you must also be mindful of that. So you should have rolled that and then kill yourself a little bit to do some, and then add some to yesterday's one. Are you getting the point? But you only vetted only for, and then at the end of the day, when the chairman is judged on with you people say no way, you will not agree. So if you will not agree, the committee have a quorum, the majority have a quorum. Without them, they can still continue to do due diligence to the work. So if you say you are not going to participate, previously, if we are not participating, we pack and go, and they continue to do their work. So if you are not going to participate, so be it. You can walk out, and then
they say they will not boycott.
They say they will not boycott, and then because of that, they were there and then to disrupt activity.
I see. So I mean, you have been observing these things for a while. How different is this from all you've seen and known in the past? I mean, this kind of this parliament, this vetting, all the chaos and the vetting style and things like that. How different is this from what we have seen in the past?
Well, this parliament is less than a month old, this 9th parliament. The appointments committee has just started its work. Remember that a lot of the things that are happening or will be happening in this parliament will be happening under a new standing orders regime, right? Very different from, mostly different from what the old one prescribes, including even the appointments committee. In the past, the appointments committee has the first deputy speaker as chair, just like it is now, and about 25 other members of parliament, not specifically defined. Now the standing order says that the membership of the committee are clearly defined. You must have a deputy majority leader as vice chair, you must have the minority leader as ranking, the 2 whips must be there, and then of course sector specific, you know, persons, 5 other members and what have you. So it's been defined. And for me, that's why I consider this appointment committee under the new standing orders as a committee of leaders, right? There are only about 3 or so committees of parliament that are defined specifically for leaders. So like the business committee of parliament, it sets the agenda for every sitting day. So you expect that the leaders, you know, on both sides will be the ones to sit on it and what have you. Like the committee on selection, it constitutes the various committees of parliament. So you expect that the leaders will be there. An appointments committee has been elevated to that status. What it means is that we expect more from a committee of leaders. For which reason, we do not expect to see all the things that we have seen this week from a committee of leaders. And for me, that sets it completely apart from what has happened in the past. Yes, in the 8th parliament, on day 1 of their 4-year tenure, we saw what happened, you know, and so it is not new. You know, it's not new to have these things happen in parliament. But the point is, must it be continued? Must it be entertained? Must it go unpunished? Must it go unnoticed? Are the Ghanaian people satisfied with how the people we have elected to represent us in parliament are doing the representation and playing the representation function? So there are a few areas where things are different, you know, with this new parliament. I've explained within the context of the new standing orders. But there are some of the acts that have happened which are, in my opinion, shadows from the past. And that is why, for us at Parliamentary Network Africa, this decisive step by the Speaker to send a right signal is a step really in the right direction. When we issued our statement yesterday in the morning, following what happened during the night before, we're very clear that if Speaker Babin and the entire Parliament refuses to address this issue head on this time around, it will open the floodgates for even more chaotic scenes. Because when the 9th of January 6th leading into January 7, 2021 happened and nobody dealt with it, you know, and subsequent ones happened. The
impunity appears to be growing.
The impunity will
when
grow.
the soldiers invaded the chamber.
The impunity will grow. And so Parliament has a responsibility, especially within an era where trust in governance institutions are at all-time low, in an era where people absolutely do not respect members of parliament and the institution of parliament to the level and extent that would have expected. Parliament must be interested, members of parliament must be interested in steps that cleans up their reputation. We'll be, in the course of today's show, as part of your advertised topics, be talking about, you know, instances of what in parliamentary parlance you would call a stranger speaking out to a member of parliament in a particular manner within the presence of parliament. You see, when an institution allows itself or showcases, in the words of Mr. Speaker, so much acts that does not court the respect of the people, it will get to the point where some of these things will start happening. It will get to the point where, just like Kenya, citizens will be completely fed up with members of parliament and will start doing some very, very despicable things, you know, and then we don't have to get there. And that is the more reason why members of parliament must see this as an opportunity for them to rethink how they have approached issues in parliament and how things can be approached, you know, going forward. And so for me, this week has been
a rather sad one. Fortunately, it ended on a note of hope through the sanctions and the clear indications. I've seen this morning statements from the minority caucus, and I think these are matters we'll interrogate in the course of the show.
Great. So the what's the name? Maybe we'll deal with that. But Cudjoe Asante thinks that he should have used the lay down procedure, referring this to the Privileges Committee and all of that. But of course, that committee is yet to be formed. But I'll find out in the course of it what is delaying the formation of those committees. But let me just take Franklin's opening thoughts, then we see. Hello, Franklin. Thanks for joining us always. How are you? And how I follow some of your tweets in the course of the week and all of that. But the events of Thursday night, very despicable.
And I mean, very, very despicable. And I really, for once, I didn't expect that to happen in the first place, even though people have said there are reasons for that. I don't agree with whatever reasons there were. I think those were dastardly acts, and the persons involved must answer questions as the speaker has demanded. So, speaker has asked that, and I think we should. We are grateful for his intervention. That's what I say. Well, regarding probably everything else, I think I was actually enjoying myself with some of the questions that were asked. Look, I think maybe a lot of people have expressed angst about the way a few people on the committee, especially the minority ranking, has a full day to ask questions. And I'm not sure that every member of that committee is stupid. They are not. I think they are not just sitting there looking at him and saying, I'm sure they are working the rules. And the rules, as I understand them, I think at one point the chairman said, we know that you have a limited time to ask questions, but please do it quickly. I think that's where the whole thing starts from. I think if they want to correct that notion or that anomaly, they should correct it. But as I understand, whatever Apenya was doing. Hello?
Yes, you're on.
Oh, sorry, I'm hearing on that. So, I understand whatever Apenya was doing was right. I think he was well within the rules to do whatever he was doing. Anyway, and I was more interested in the questions he was asking rather than the number of questions. And by the way, it is when a nominee responds, if you notice carefully, this is not to whitewash whatever opinion do, but listen carefully. And the people should not invest emotions into whatever they are listening. I was listening for the issues of understanding how governance work. I was listening to understand the issues about how. I'll come to that. But you see, the fact of the matter is that when he asked the nominee a question, and some of the nominees were heavier than others. Let's admit it. You can't spend 10 minutes on my good friends, all the two sums. It's not possible because these are very towering figures in the party who have had stands on very critical issues in this country. We need to hear them. Some of the regional ministers say, I agree that the Greater Accra region, you should have talked about the region, how to beautify the region, maybe how to make the spaces in the Greater Accra livable. That's a disappointment that she was just let go just because they know her. I don't know her. I need to understand her. Who cares whether you know her in Parliament? I don't know her. I want to understand what she thinks, how she thinks about spatial management, how the indigenous people in Accra could actually improve their lives. Because I go down to some of the countryside, some of the peri-urban areas in Accra, and I feel shattered. I don't even understand why people who are living just close to the city are living in such utterly despicable conditions. We need to understand what she thinks about that. And she was happy, agog with laughter, and then left. I don't think that is the way. And look at yesterday, some of the regional ministers, it was as if buy one get one free. They passed them like as if they were a conveyor belt, and then they just left. Nothing substantial, nothing about the economic capabilities of the regions. No. We have not been learned on one district, one factory. When the Nanado did that, we are saying that, look, understand the capabilities, the viabilities, the profitability of these potentials of this district before you even cite factories. If for nothing at all, we had an opportunity to ask these ministers, have you done a proper economic benefit analysis of a region? Because presumably, once you're appointed, you must be somebody who has some gravitas and understand what's happening in the region. Some of the answers I was hearing were funny, and anyway, let's leave that. I just want to say that on the substantive issue, which I think many people are now trying to talk about, Penyo, NPP, there, I think please, guys, let's sit back and ask yourself, what was happening there? If you answered the ranking, depending on the answers you give, it then goes further, and that can actually lead to a lengthy interrogation. So for me, like I said, I don't care about the number. Once it was well within the rights and rules, well, the chairman had to stop him or decide otherwise. Well, fine, but I think Parliament should have its own rules as to how they go forward. But look, I was happy about the questions Opinion actually asked my two good friends, the two sons.
I see.
There are questions clearly on the issues of your character. Look, it is important because if these two men are not new people in this country. They've gone after people's characters. They've said so many things about people, and legitimately so. Nobody is taking that away from them. There is an opportunity to vet them. Trust me, everything that they have said or done will definitely be part of the questioning. And it's for a good reason, so that people will say you come with equity with clean hands, so that you also be treated the same way. So if you said certain things about a person, and then they said, probably the president is responsible for everything that happens, whether he knows about it or not, they need to put you to strict proof. And at the end of the day, the Penyo managed to extract that from the nominee. When you go ahead and say certain things about, well, of course, nobody has said anybody is corrupt there, but questions about how you raise your income sources apart from what you earn. But people see you, people know you, they know where you live, everybody knows that. So when questions have been asked about that, I was happy because I wanted to understand the root cause of what I call some of the campaign finance issues we have in this country. We need to understand those. So if you have gone after somebody's property, however he acquired it, whether in public or private, and you have a chairman of ORA that is supposed to recover all of this asset, we need to also understand how you acquired yours. It's simple. And I don't think there's any witch hunting on anything wrong at all. I think people are invested motions in this whole thing and making it look like somebody is after somebody. I think it's totally wrong. Ghanaians, think careful. And I suspect that question about where my good friend stays was legitimate and relevant. And I think the chairman did a great disservice to the country by coming to the rescue of my good friend. But I think even Sam himself was willing to volunteer information. So it was tried knowledge that, well, if somebody probably was earning maybe 15,000 a month, and nobody says he's not saved money, he's done so much, he's done so well, and he says he lives at the place where he's paying rent, we need to understand how much the rent is. This is a public office, it's not a private person. That he'll be paying rent for a good 8 years. I mean, anybody can question whether it was an economically wise decision he took, but hey, that's his choice. But public servant, we need to understand how he's making those decisions. Everything is up for grabs. When you're a public officer, everything is there. So I think I was rather following for me to learn how, for instance, and to think that some of the nominees never answered questions about the alternative source of funding was a bit worrying. And I think we should stay back and actually analyze what had happened. Yes, we can quibble with the number of questions that were asked, and I think we should do that. But that has to be dealt with at the committee level. It has to be done. And I think we are learning as we go forward. But for me, I was actually enjoying and learning at the same time. It was a great disappointment that the minority refused to serve after trying to understand what the speaker meant. And then since the minority left, just look at the show that occurred. That's a comedy, like Contact. And people were just go. That what happened was not vetting. It was a comedy.
I see. Great. Frankly, so hang in there.